Alrighty. So, as everybody's starting to talk about, oh, we're going to get healthy this year and we're going to use peptides and hormones, all that stuff's great, fantastic. Very good idea. Peptides and hormones are really the path to getting where you want to go. I talk about how calories aren't really a thing all the time because the entire body is based on hormones. Fantastic. Well done. Good choice on the peptides and the hormones. However, it is a piece of a larger whole. You can't eat like crap, not work out, not sleep, and take peptides and everything's going to be where you want to go. It's all magic. That's where people start getting messed up. So when we started looking at the damage from the GLP-1s, we started seeing that people had lots of muscle loss because they weren't taking their anabolics. They weren't getting their testosterone, their growth hormones. They weren't getting those up. They weren't working out. They weren't consuming their protein. And so what you have to understand is that these peptides are amazing chain chemicals. They do all sorts of amazing things. They're metabolic tools. They do great things, but they're pieces of a larger set. And so if you're going to take, even Retta can do some amazing things if you're not working out and stuff like that. But if you lose a bunch of fat, you don't build the musculature, you're not improving your metabolic function, you're not improving your overall health, you're not providing for long-term function. And one of the funniest things is that I've had a bunch of people lose a bunch of fat and they're like, why am I not ripped? Well, because the fat wasn't covering jacked, beautiful muscles. It was just there. And so when you lose it, you don't have anything underneath. So when you start looking at some of this stuff, recognize that you're like, well, all the bodybuilders are taking them. Yeah, they are. They're getting phenomenal results. But those tools are helping them heal, regenerate, repair from the workouts they did to build the musculature. So when we start looking at these things, they're not magic. They're not going to, you take 3 or 4 peptides and all of a sudden you're, the Adonis you've always wanted to be. So these are add-ons to regular things. Anybody who tells you, oh, you just got to take this and you'll get the body you want, the health you want, you can eat whatever you want to. And I'm seeing a lot of that with both the GLPs, the Retta and stuff like that. People are saying you can eat whatever you want and you still lose all the weight and you still get super healthy. I wouldn't walk down that road mentally because it's going to end up hurting you long term. What I would highly recommend is that you use these tools to help you get where you want to go. So for instance, using a GLP-1, like let's use Retta for the example, which is a GLP-3, which is my favorite, so we're going to use it. It calms the food noise down, so you're not always snacking. And so you can start making a little bit better decisions on what you're eating and, introducing, better proteins, better fats, lower glycemic carbohydrates, kind of figuring out how to kind of construct your diet in a way that is more beneficial to you. So that we can make long-term changes so that if you need to, or you choose to, or it's best for you to come off of these peptides, you've developed new habits, you've developed new food sources, you've developed new recipes, you've kind of changed your life in a manner that is now more beneficial to your long-term health. Maybe you started working out, maybe you started going out for walks, like whatever it is, but you've actually made real change on top of just adding in peptides and things like that. Now, when we talk about hormones, you cannot, and this I'll get crushed for this is my opinion, you cannot be healthy without your hormones where they're supposed to be. If your fasting insulin isn't where it's supposed to be, you've got insulin resistance, you're walking down the road towards diabetes and brain deterioration and joint deterioration and just horrible terribleness. So if your insulin hormone isn't where it's supposed to be, you've got to fix that. Retta's phenomenal for fixing it, but you've got to fix the insulin thing. And that's going to end up being, at the end of the day, diet to some degree. So you've got to work on that. If you're like, oh, well, my metabolic function is not where I want it to be. Your metabolism lives in your muscle tissue. So you're going to have to build some muscle tissue, which means you're probably going to have to do something physical to work out, whether that's body weight squats and walking around the neighborhood, or whether that's lifting weights, or whether that's, going to the gym for an hour and a half every day and crushing it. Depending on where your goals are, you're going to have to do those things. Now, the thing that I love more than anything about getting your hormones back where they're supposed to be, getting your testosterone up, your insulin levels down, resetting your estrogen levels, especially if you're a woman, getting all those things rebalanced, is that once you get the hormones where they're supposed to be, and then you can manage and regulate them with foods and stuff like that, now all of a sudden, you can get the gains, you can get the things that you've always wanted to get. You can build the muscle, you can lose the fat, you can have the energy, you can have all those things. But that's the thing. You've got to maintain them with the inputs into the body. And so those major inputs are going to be diet, because that's going to be your glucagon, your leptin, your ghrelin, your insulin. All those are going to be diet. And then testosterone levels and things like that, growth hormone, have a lot to do with physical activity. And so as we kind of put all those things back together, now all of a sudden you've developed the tools to get you where you want to go. And I talk about this a lot, where we'll have somebody come in and they're like, when we first go through the goals meeting, they're like, I just want to be healthy. Like, fantastic. Like, I don't need a six pack. I don't need big arms. I just need to be healthy. Like, great. That's fantastic. And then like 6, 7, 8 weeks in, they come back in and they go, remember how I said I didn't need a six pack? And I'm like, yeah. And they go, I'm just curious. Let's say I did want the six pack. What's the program look like if I wanted to change it for that? And that's always my favorite conversation, because what that means is that they finally, lots of times for the first time ever, the energy, the sweat, the blood, all the things that goes into, changing your body and changing your health, they got a return on that investment that was equal to or greater what they thought it was going to be. And so now for the first time, they're like, oh, if I do go to the gym, if I do eat right, I will get the results I've always wanted, because we've rebalanced their hormones, we've reset their metabolic function, and we've kind of taught them how things really work. And so now they're starting to get results they never got before. And so they're like, well, maybe now I'll be willing to spend a little bit more time in the gym. Now maybe I'll be a little bit more diligent with my diet. And those are always my favorite conversations, because that's when people start to recognize that their body will work with them and will do the things that they want it to do. They just have to make sure that they're on the right playing field to begin with. So, those are always great. So if you guys are using these things, fantastic, but think long-term. Think this isn't a thing we're going to use just peptides forever. It's, what can be the next step? And I'll tell you, just, spoiler alert, I guess, but you're going to have to do something for physical exercise. Weights are going to be one of the best ones. You're going to have to do something for diet, glycemic function and hormone control based, not caloric based. But what happens when you consume that food from a hormonal standpoint are going to be the best things to do. Get your sleep done, figure out how to get your sleep in. And those are going to be the things you got to do. And you don't have to go from not working out at all to, an hour in the gym or an hour and a half in the gym doing crazy stuff like what I do. That's fine. Walk around the neighborhood, walk on a treadmill, climb some stairs. Do some body weight squats, start with some stretching. There's lots and lots of things that you can do that will be wildly more beneficial than what you're doing now. And we can start off slow. So regardless of what you're going to do, regardless of what you're going to work with, if you're going to start doing peptides and hormones, do start with hormones. It's going to be really, really beneficial to your long-term function. But sooner or later, you're going to have to add in all the stuff that people say they don't like, which is the diet and the exercise piece. So kind of factor that in your mindset, recognize it's going to be part of it, and we'll kind of move through. So tomorrow we're going to start going through the peptides, the ones that are really, really fun, some of the ones that people have heard about, the ones people have not heard about, some upsides and downsides to the different ones. And if you guys have any questions, hit us up. If there's a peptide that you want to know more about, hit us up, kind of throw that in there, and we'll start walking through it. Otherwise, you guys have a fantastic day. Thanks for your time.